Greetings, family. Welcome. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I hope everybody's doing well. Welcome. Check in. Let us know where you're hailing from. It's good to be back after taking just a couple days to relax. Today is Tuesday. It is April the 29th. This year is flying by 2025, and the time is 2:24 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I will do my best to just give brief news today because I'm cooking dinner for family and getting ready to take care of some things. But I just wanted to come on to say hello. I hope everybody's doing well and to let you know that in this new era, people are not getting away with dirt. So people thought that they could live above the law. But most recently, we have come to see that judges are being arrested, not just the one judge that's been all over the news lately, and we'll talk about this judge, but judges have been actually arrested since the first Trump administration. It's just that it hadn't reached mainstream media as much as some of the other gossip that's been coming out. But judges are being arrested and pastors are either stepping down or they're forced to resign. This is all a part of the takedown. It's all a part of the white hat operation or the changing of the guard. Once the Pope died and Queen Elizabeth died, the Queen Elizabeth died last year for the third or fourth time, but now it's like formally announced that she's died. She has died. The Pope has died. It's over, because even when the Pope was announced to have been very, very sick, they literally said he was hanging on by a thread, which was a clue to us that the deep state or the cabal, the Illuminati, the darkness, or whomever was controlling the world, they were hanging on by a thread. But now that the Pope has died and he was the head of that organization, at least in the human realm, he was the head of the United States Incorporated, and now he's gone. You're going to see a swift demolition of the deep state, also known as the United States Incorporated, because the Pope was, again, the head of the United States Incorporated. And that's why the USA Inc. that was, registered in Delaware and incorporated in 1871 was incorporated as a nonprofit religious organization because the Pope was the head of the organization. But we all know that there are bloodline families behind the Pope and behind the 13 bloodline families that incorporated this so-called country. So we're going to get right into the news after we acknowledge some of our soul family members that have joined us. Welcome, family. I see 125 people in the chat. Not that many because we didn't make an announcement earlier to let you know that we were going live. But I see Sister Crystal Gold says Grand Rising, Dr. Kia. Alexander is in the house. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, Grand Rising. Tracy says, Dr. Pruitt, you look fabulous. Thank you so much. Brandon Rogers is in the house. Hi, Brandon. Good afternoon to you too. He says, good afternoon, Empress and chat. Brandon, would you happen to be the Brandon that's from America but now lives in Ghana? There's a Brandon Rogers in Ghana as well. Just wanted to know if it was you. Mama is in the house. Mama Isi. Is it Isi or Lacey? Hello, Mama Lacey. You made a live, Taka Valentine. Welcome. It's good to see you. Anna Reynolds is also in the house saying, have a great day. Yeah, it is a great day today. I agree. Jasmine L says, beautiful new day to you, Dr. Kia. Thank you. Beautiful new day to you. NFN says the Dominican Republic is in the building. Hello, DR. It's good to see our Dominican family in the house. Jacob Bay says Walmarts are closing too. And Walmart is headed by Sam Walton and the Walton family. They also had or own Sam's grocery store. You know, a lot of those major stores, thank you for the information, will have to shut down, as well as banks. Now, in the private member section, we're going to talk about banks closing today at 3:30, so I have to make this quick. But yeah, a lot of the major department stores and grocery stores, banks are closing because we're getting rid of this old system and we are bringing up or resurrecting the republic. Now people will be able to have stores, shops, like mom and pop shops, and utilize their gifts to create businesses. No longer will the deep state or these bloodline families or these very, very wealthy billionaires be able to monopolize markets. So thank you, Jacob. Divine Hazel is in the house. Hello. Charlotte says hello to the Soul family. Yes, I am having a wonderful day. Hello, Sister Karen. Great day to you. And shalom to you, Horatio. Miss Copper Colored is in the house. She says, a beautiful day. Oh, greetings, beautiful lady. Thank you. Sister Veronica says, good afternoon. Brandon says, no, that's not him. That's living in Ghana. Welcome again, Brandon. Grand rising to you, Brother Charles. Dale from California is in the house. Sheila says, greetings, woman of God. Greetings to you too, Shalita. Excuse me. Tracy said, it's a great afternoon. I agree. One of my closest friends used to say, it's better to be seen and not viewed. So it's good to see you. Thank you for saying I'm looking good today. So family, in this new reality, people will not be able to get away with a lot of things that they were doing. Now, we knew that judges and attorneys would have to step down during this time period because we are in the golden era and because our republic is being restored. And that's all a part of NESARA. NESARA is the National Economic Security and Reformation Act, and the global version of that is the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. That act was passed in 2000. It was signed into law by Bill Clinton, of course, against his will, but the military forced him or coerced him to sign this into law. And for those of you who don't know it, NESARA had to come into play in order to liberate the people. What happened was a group of farmers took the central banking system, the Federal Reserve central banking system to court, and the United States incorporated to court, to the highest courts, to the world court. And the reason the farmers took them to the courts was because farmers were forced to plant Monsanto seeds and they were forced to do certain things in order to get loans from the federal government. If these farmers did not comply with the wishes of the federal government, then they would confiscate their land. So the farmers got tired of doing that. They're the backbone of our country. They are really the backbone of society because the farmers feed the world. Well, the farmers here in America got tired of their land being confiscated. They got tired of having to take out loans. No longer could they get even grants, but they had to force to take out loans and forced to do nefarious things to take out these loans. And the loans had interest rates charged on top of those loans. And interest or charging interest or usury, as some people call it usury, is actually against the law. It is against the Constitution for our republic to charge usury. And that's because the Constitution is based on biblical principles. And the Bible says that you may not tax your brother, or you may not put an interest on top of a loan. So the farmers took the United States Incorporated to court and the Federal Reserve Central Banking System, the banking system of the United States Incorporated, to court and said that these people are going against the Constitution, and they won their claim. It was determined during those court proceedings that not only had the central banking system violated the law against the farmers, but they had done so against we the people in America and all over the world. So the courts determined that the United States Incorporated had to be bankrupted, and that the bloodline families that were over the United States Incorporated and over the central banking system, which are all one bloodline family, had to be arrested, investigated, and sent to Guantanamo Bay, and that the farmers had to be paid or compensated for the banking system carrying out nefarious activities against the farmers. But there was a clause in that said that also the United States Incorporated had to pay back we the people for stealing our funds, charging interest rates on loans as well. And all nefarious banking activities had to be mitigated. So the farmers were told during that time, that was in the 70s and 80s, and then those lawsuits went through a long period of time. The farmers were told that they would be paid first after the republic is restored and the Federal Reserve central banking system and the Federal Reserve, the federal government, excuse me, was dismantled. When all that's over, the republic would be restored, the gold standard would be restored, and the farmers would be paid in gold. Now, I've met people that were a part of the claim and that had gone through the court proceedings with the farmers. So they said the farmers had to be paid first, and then we, the people. The exciting news is that we're living in that time, the NESARA time, where we, the people, have to be compensated for unfair and unlawful practices of the Federal Reserve and the federal government. This is why during this time period, now that we're in the golden age, the Supreme Court of the United States overturned the Chevron Doctrine, which the Chevron Doctrine gave unlimited powers to the federal government. Well, when the Supreme Court overturned that this summer, they said no longer can the federal government have unlimited powers because they're not lawful. They're just a group of bloodline families and their friends, the Good Old Boys Network, who created certain organizations and certain statutes, codes, and policies and forced the people to go along with it. So the Supreme Court of the United States overturned all that this summer and said that not only have all these federal agencies like the FBI, the CIA, IRS, you guys know them. I have a list of 441 of them. I'll put them in the post section or the community section again, which I've done it before, but I'll do it again, the 441 list of them. They not only had they infringed upon our rights to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but these organizations committed treason. The Supreme Court of the United States went a step further and said that any judge that knew of this of these organizations are participating in crimes against humanity or forcing us to abide by certain statutes and codes and policies, any of those judges that knew and allowed that, they had also committed treason. Because what happened was, when you violate one of these so-called laws, which are not laws, but they're statutes, policies, and codes of any of these federal agencies, you will have a fine assessed to you and you will have to go to court. Well, the Supreme Court of the United States said what typically happened when you or I went to court and were forced to pay a fine is that the judge would say, in fact, you have to not only pay that fine, but you have to do whatever these federal agencies and agents say because they are the experts. Well, last summer, the Supreme Court of the United States overturned the Chevron Doctrine, giving the federal government unlimited powers and saying they committed crimes against humanity. They were treasonous. Any judge that knew of them doing this, and any judge that said that you had to be deferred back to these government agencies and therefore had to pay a fine, they committed treason. And any judge that knew of a judge that allowed this to happen, they committed misprision of treason. So what we see is the Supreme Court of the United States actually following the rule of NESARA, stating that the people have to be mitigated for all of the wrongdoings of the federal government and the Federal Reserve central banks. So NESARA has lots of different components, and I'll quickly go through that because I really want to focus on the judges being forced to step down and the legal system being turned back over to constitutional law. So right quick, I just want to show you how judges having to step down is part of NESARA. So we can do a whole video on NESARA benefits, what it is, and how we know that we're living in this time period right now where all these things that I've been talking about, maybe some other people have been talking about over the last 10 years are actually now part of our reality. And the farmers taking the Federal Reserve central banking system to court and the United States Incorporated to court in the 70s, 80s, the result of that is happening right now. So people are going to be asking you all, is it really happening that our freedom is being returned, that the republic is being restored, that we're moving to constitutional law? Absolutely. And this is how we know. Because you can see many of the points or the tenets of NESARA, zeroing out all credit cards, I did a video where I showed you that the Supreme Court had actually ruled that these creditors and credit bureaus have to cease and desist. So zeroing out credit cards, that's the first point. Abolishing the income tax, which we know President Trump has talked about that. Abolishing the IRS, which is why President Trump said he's going to get rid of the Internal Revenue Services and create the External Revenue Services. We see him literally doing that right now, putting the tariffs on these countries for doing business with us, right? He said he will stop taxing the people and start taxing these countries. It'll create a 14% flat rate non-essential new item sales tax revenue for the government. So the only tax that will be allowed in this new season is a 14% flat tax on big ticket items. It will increase benefits to senior citizens. There are now talks about that. You can even Google it, where senior citizens are supposed to receive more money, more Social Security, more benefits in this new era under this second Trump administration. It will return us to constitutional law, to all courts and legal matters. That's what we're going to focus on. Number 6, but 7, reinstate the original title of nobility amendment. Hundreds of thousands of Americans under the control of foreign powers will lose their citizenships, be deported to other countries, and barred from re-entry for the remainder of their lives. And millions of people will soon discover their college degrees are now worthless paper. So reinstating the original title of nobility amendment is important too, as it relates to judges and lawyers, because according to our Constitution, anybody with a title of nobility may not serve. They may not create laws, because a title of nobility suggests that, and really emphatically asserts that you work for the Queen, the British Crown, and not for we the people. So if you are an attorney today or a judge, you have Esquire behind your name, and you had to pass the British accredited registry, the bar exam. Passing the British accredited registry, the bar exam, signifies that you work for the British Crown. So now all of those attorneys that have been practicing have to give up their position. And if they desire to serve and create laws, now they have to be retrained in constitutional law. Okay, the 9th tenet monitors. No, the 8th one is establish new presidential and congressional elections within 120 days after NASARA's announcement. So we'll have new elections according to this, one of the tenets of NASARA, after the republic has been restored. Number 9, we will monitor elections and prevent illegal election activities. 10, create a new United States Treasury currency that's backed by gold, silver, palladium, and platinum. That's why I keep talking about precious metals, and I have done so for the last 11 years, because we could foresee that we were moving to the gold standard. When I lived in Ghana, the Gold Coast, and saw all these Chinese companies mining there, we could see all the signs. And now here we are in 2025, and to date, we have 46 states that have reclaimed silver and gold as money. As far as I know, there aren't that many people talking about it, if anybody's talking about it. But we have over here been talking about it for many, many years, about how state after state has reclaimed silver and gold as money and or legal tender by repealing state sales taxes from precious metals. So we're going to have a new treasury note that's backed by gold and silver. This is why you have states like Florida talking about gold backs. I've been talking about gold backs for years, about a decade, but I called them gold aurum notes. These are real gold, 24 karat gold pressed onto a note. 0.999 pure gold pressed onto a note. Now you see states making announcements that they have issued out gold backs. On my members only section, I tell you how you can barter with gold backs, those foil notes, gold notes that are as little as $3 right now, how you can start bartering right now, using those and exchanging them for goods and services, and even paying taxes. I talk about how you can use those and silver. But States are now issuing out gold backs because we're moving to the gold standard. That's what mainstream media won't tell you. When you're on YouTube, you'll probably, if you're looking at Dr. Kia Pruitt's show or some of the other people that are talking about a global currency reset, maybe even revaluation of currencies, some of the commercials will talk about gold because they're seeding it into your consciousness that we're moving to a gold standard. That's why BRICS was created. That's why the Shanghai Corporation was created, because all these nations are coalescing against the central banking system and using gold or using their own currencies backed by gold, thanks to the farmers that took the central banking system to court, to the highest court, to the world courts. Another tenet of NESARA is that we'll forbid the sale of American birth certificates. The 12th bullet point will initiate new United States Treasury bank systems in alignment with constitutional law, which is what I'm going to talk about in my members only section today at 3:30, how central banks are closing, but sovereign banks are still open, and they're open because they're here to serve you. They're open and they're ready to receive your foreign currencies, okay? The 13th bullet point eliminates the Federal Reserve central banking system. During this transition period, the Federal Reserve will be allowed to operate side by side the United States Treasury for 1 year in order to remove all Federal Reserve notes from the money supply. So the Federal Reserve system is bankrupt and insolvent right now. And this is why the Supreme Court mandated that, or allowed for sovereign banks to issue out their own gold-backed currencies. But you'll have to tune into my members only section if you want to hear more about that at 3:30. Let's see. It will restore financial privacy. This is NESARA law. They will retrain all judges and attorneys in constitutional law. It will cease, another bullet, cease all aggressive United States government military actions worldwide. In other words, we'll have world peace and establish peace throughout the world. 18, releases enormous amounts of money for humanitarian purposes. That is why President Trump created the Sovereign Wealth Fund, okay, because we're getting ready to put out trillions of dollars, or inject trillions of dollars into the global economy. And Trump said that in his first administration. So as soon as he came in on his second administration, he created the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which is a fund comprised of real estate, stocks, bonds, rare minerals, precious metals like silver, gold, palladium, platinum, and money that he's going to collect through tariffs. And all of this money will then go back to we the people. So it's really a brilliant plan that we've been talking about over here since 2017 that now we can see come into fruition. It's really exciting what the farmers have done by taking the United States Incorporated and their Federal Reserve central banking system to court. They have helped to liberate humanity. And again, they were told that an army would be created or a military would be created to take down the deep state, the Federal Reserve, the fake government, and then everything will be returned back to we the people, turned over to constitutional law or back to the republic. So another thing that will happen with this release of enormous funds of money that's going to go back into the global economy is that we're going to see everybody all over the world have money put into their quantum accounts or to their accounts that's attached to their birth certificate bond and to their trust. So we will receive something like a universal basic income every single month. And it's not a new concept. Oil-rich nations have been doing it forever, and some other nations that have wealth, they literally give their people money every single month. So I've heard anywhere between $10,000 and $100,000 per month people will get. I can't say what it would be emphatically what that number would be, but we know that it's going to happen. People will receive something. And we also know that the work hours is not on here, will be reduced from 40 hours to 20 hours. We also know that they're reintroducing a bill to enable women to retire at the age of 50 or 51. And that was something that was introduced a long time ago. But you have lawmakers that are pushing for that because President Trump and lawmakers that are part of our republic are saying that women should not have to work until they're, 70, 65, 70 years old. So there's a law that says that there's a bill that's being presented that says that women should be able to come out of the workforce early. And then finally, the final tenet of NESARA says it enables the release of over 6,000 suppressed patents and technologies. So I want to go over that just briefly before I talk about judges being forced to resign. Judges will be forced to resign because they have a title of nobility, right? If you're an attorney or a judge, you have Esquire behind your name. You cannot serve. You may not create laws. You're not even promoting the law. You're not enforcing the law. Even policy enforcers or police officers, they will have to step down. This is why, and you can Google it, police departments all over the country are closing down. And those police officers that desire to remain and serve have to be retrained, and they're being turned over to the sheriff department. Why? Because the sheriffs are the only ones that may enforce the law according to our republic, our lawful government that bloodline families usurped. So you had two governments. You had our lawful republic, which was here already, based on constitutional law, or the law of the land. And then you had these bloodline families to get together and take power from or usurp authority from the republic. And they are the ones that incorporated themselves in 1871 as a nonprofit religious organization. And they created their own constitution called the Constitution of the United States Incorporated. Okay, which is not to be confused with the Constitution for our Republic of America. Okay, they have their own constitution and they have statutes, codes, and policies. They do not have laws. What they have is something called legalities. What's legal is different from what's lawful. Lawful is in alignment with the Constitution, the land, the law of the land, common law, our republic. Legalities, statutes, policies, codes, policy enforcers or police officers, they are in alignment with these bloodline families that incorporated themselves in 1871 as the United States Incorporated, a nonprofit religious organization headed by and supported by the Pope, the Queen, the British Crown, et cetera, with the eagle as their symbol. The Roman Empire actually chose the eagle as their symbol because the eagle is a predatory animal and has a lot of prowess. So police officers, they are the ones that actually enforce policies, statutes, codes. They have their own brotherhood. They're a part of the deep state. They are part of the United States Incorporated. They have to stand down along with these judges and these attorneys. These attorneys are not lawyers. Lawyers actually stand by and create laws and enforce laws. These people, attorneys, they attorney for you. They speak on your behalf because they consider you and me slaves, citizens sitting in sin. They consider you a slave, a minor, not able to speak for yourself. That's why you have an attorney to speak for you in court. The whole court ritual is a ritual. It's a seance performed by a judge who wears a black robe, who is actually conducting your funeral and accessing your trust or your bonds that's attached to your birth certificate. These people are wicked, so they have to stand down. This is why you see now it being made public that judges are being arrested or forced to resign. Judges, attorneys, police officers, again, because they work for the deep state, the United States Incorporated, that is attached to admiralty law or law of the water, maritime law, admiralty law, which is different from constitutional law and the law of the land. So they have a title of nobility. They, many of them are not from America, or they have dual citizens, and they do not work for we the people. A lot of them are a part of the deep state, Illuminati, and other secret societies like the Skull and Bone, like the Boule, like the Illuminati, and they perform rituals and rites and all type of nefarious things in order to maintain their power, because they are part of the deep state, which is controlled by bloodline families that are actually non-human. So these rituals that they're performing, utilize or takes away our energy, because these beings in power, including judges, lawyers, all these people with titles of nobility, and all of these people that have coalesced against us, siphon our energy for their overlords, which eat your energy. So when you're stressed out because you're paying taxes, or you have to go through all these court proceedings, or you're stressed out because of all of the murder and crime that's going on, or anything that's in the news, you emit an energy that we call psychic energy, that's called loosh, Loosh. And when you emit this loosh from from this angst, this stressful energy, this hurt, this pain, and even fear and anxiety, these beings that were not human, they absorb it and eat it as food. Well, their peons that they use on, their little puppets that they use to create statutes, policies, codes, and lock us up and all that, they work for these entities that are not human. And they're all a part of one club to which we were not invited. That club, those secret societies, not only perform rituals and make you emit psychic energy, but they harvest organs. They do bad things to babies. They drink blood. They make sacrifices. So judges, a lot of attorneys, a lot of prosecutors, some doctors, school teachers, pastors, a lot of them have to end quote unquote perform rituals in order to get the job and to maintain their job. But in this new era, the age of Aquarius, the new golden era, they are being exposed and they're being forced to resign and they're being arrested. So quickly, I just want to show you that police departments are closing down. You can Google it though. Let me see if I can find them. Yep. Right now they're saying small towns, but it will be all towns. Hit the like button, family. Subscribe to the channel. Share the video. American small towns are disbanding police forces, citing hiring woes. So it depends upon which article you see or you read. You'll see that they're saying that police departments all over America are shutting down, and that the duties of these police departments are being turned over to the sheriff department. And we know that the reason that's happening is because the sheriff is the only one that can enforce the law according to our republic. This is how we know things are happening. This is how we know emphatically that NESARA and GESARA is in fact happening. This is how we know that we're returning back to constitutional law, because police departments are being forced to shut down, and because we actually see many of those tenets of NESARA coming into fruition right here in our reality. So one of the most notable judges that have been arrested is the one I'm going to bring up right here. And I love it. I love it because what happened is you had the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to make a statement. And this statement was issued out by the Justice Department. And in her statement, she says, no one is above the law. She said, apparently judges thought they were above the law, but no one is above the law. We're going to get them all. Okay, this is coming from the Department of Justice. This article that was published Friday says Trump's Attorney General warns that this particular arrested judge is just the beginning of judges being arrested. Wisconsin was only the beginning of Donald Trump's law enforcement crackdown on the judiciary. Judge Hannah Duggan was arrested earlier in the day on charges of obstruction for purposely misdirecting immigration and customs enforcement agents away from Eduardo Flores Ruiz, an immigrant attending a pretrial hearing at the Milwaukee County Courthouse last week. While discussing the case during an appearance on Fox News, Bondi said that judges' attempt to help immigrants evade arrest were deranged. So you had judges that were in cahoots with unlawful, illegal immigrants remaining here. But the Trump administration is cracking down on that and saying these judges are committing fraud and they're committing criminal activities, and therefore they will deal with the consequences. I think some of these judges think they are beyond and above the law, and they are not, Bondi said in a statement. And we are sending a very strong message today. If you are harboring a fugitive, we don't care who you are. If you're helping to hide one, if you are giving a TDA member guns, anyone who is illegally in this country, we will come after you and we will prosecute you. We will find you. So this person called Duggan, who is a judge, has been arrested. And according to the Department of Justice filing, Duggan let this illegal person, Flores Ruiz, enter the courtroom through a side door that's typically reserved for a jury. He then used a public hallway in the courthouse to get into an elevator and exit the building before ICE officers could stop him. If Duggan is convicted, the charges may result in a maximum penalty of 6 years in prison. So that's just one judge that was arrested. But there have been several judges that have actually been arrested over the last couple of years. There was one judge that was dragged out of court in 2019 that had been arrested, and this judge didn't want to give up its place because judges, again, they were above the law. They could do whatever they wanted to do, and attorneys, they could get away with doing whatever they wanted to do because they were the law. As a matter of fact, I remember being in West Virginia in Huntington. That's where I got my master's degree. I had a psychology professor. It was crazy. The things these judges and lawyers, people were able to do. I had a psychology professor, it was an advanced psychology class, to tell us that he represented judges and attorneys and other people who were accused of raping children. This guy would testify on behalf of these court officials, and he told us that he would actually tell the court that these babies wanted this type of treatment because girls flirt, and he could psychologically prove that babies and children flirt by nature, and that they therefore, because of their nature, young ladies and girls, because of their nature, they were flirting, that the men in power could not help themselves. He literally got away with this, and he boasted about it, about how he did some type of proving that psychologically girls ask for rape. It was sick. And even when I reported him to the administration at Marshall University, nobody did anything to him because he had tenure. This guy literally told us out of his mouth he represented judges, attorneys, coaches, teachers, not represented, but he spoke on their behalf. And he could prove, because he was psychological expert, forensic psychologist, psychological expert, behavior psychologist was his thing. He could prove that men had a propensity to do things to children based on a little girl's nature. And these judges and attorneys got away with it because they were a part of the club, the Good Old Boys Network. Well, let me show you this body cam of a judge being dragged out of court because they thought they were above the law and they could do anything. So telling them that they got arrested just suit them well. I'm trying to get past this. I'm trying to get past this commercial. So keep talking in the chat. I'm going to acknowledge you guys in a minute. Here's a judge that's been arrested that was dragged out of court.
After After a judge sentenced another judge to jail time, chaos erupted in an Ohio courtroom. And taking the defendant into custody wasn't so easy, as a court officer had to drag her out. Former Cincinnati Judge Tracy Hunter was sentenced to 6 months in jail back in 2014, but she's been appealing the ruling ever since. She was convicted of misusing her position as a judge to help her brother, who was facing an employment dispute over his job in the county.
I'll let you all listen to the rest of that. I'll put it in the description section, but I just wanted to show you that judges have been getting away with a lot of things, and they thought they were above the law, but they're starting to get arrested. They're being dragged out of court. They're being, ashamed or having, going through shame because they literally thought they can get away with anything. Here's another body cam showing a judge hitting a cop and flipping out after getting arrested because they literally thought they could do it. Let me see if I can find that one. Oh man, I can't find that one. Well, I'll put that one in the description section if I can. Let me see. I'll look it up right quick. Body cam shows a judge hitting a cop after getting arrested. 1 minute. Let me know what you guys think about judges getting arrested in this new era. This was in Georgia that this happened. Let me see what you guys are saying. This one is funny though. I mean, not really funny, but just the fact that they think they can get away with going against the law. Yes, the St. Germain Trust. I want to talk a little bit about that in my private video, my private group today. Let's see what you guys think about the judges being. Oh, I hear you talking about Nasara. People are saying thanks to the farmers. Yes, we give thanks to the farmers. Ooh, somebody said she needs 5 years and 6 months. Greetings. Who's somebody sick? Yeah, that psychologist was sick. Yeah. Isn't that something? Oh, Cheryl Watkins says he's 6. He is 6. Sick. That's not true that children entice grown men. She says, I was almost raped, and the police officers asked me if I enticed the person. Yeah, they would blame this on the children. And judges would bring in, and attorneys would bring in psychologists who are part of their brotherhood or their secret society and testify that children entice grown men and or women to rape them. Here's a body cam of a Georgia judge that allegedly hit a cop flipping out in a car. Oh, they're going through it. They're crashing out, as the young people would say, because they can't believe it.
The last person that ever tried me like this died 30 days later. I pray for you. Regardless, wise, where I be in here with Young Thug. I ain't Woody. Yeah. Where in the world is this man going? I got it. I can walk on my own. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. You a lie. You're a liar.
I'm telling you what I'm telling you.
You're a liar. Let him go. Let him go. Let him go. Let him
So a lot of them, if you really look at the credentials of these attorneys and judges, they are not only part of the Boule or the Skull and Bones or the Illuminati, but they start off in the Greek society. They go through college pledging through, this isn't a bad thing about the college Greek societies, but I'm telling you, that is their entryway. So in the so-called Black community, if you are part of the Divine Nine, then when you're a part of the Divine Nine or any of those Black Greek college societies, which are secret societies, you can get certain jobs that everybody else can't get. I didn't pledge. So not pledging I was like, I don't need somebody to be a part of somebody's group to be special. But I didn't know the repercussions of that. I got an entry position at the college. I have a doctorate degree. I got an entry level position as a counselor, a program director, but never dean, assistant dean, associate dean, never associate provost or president or vice president, because you literally have to be part of the secret society to get those positions. So my friends that either started out in the Black Greek fraternities or the white Greek fraternities are the ones that moved up. And then once you get into certain positions, if you want to really go up high up, you join, or you get tapped on the shoulder by the Boule in the Black community, and in the so-called white community, I think it might be Skull and Bones and the Illuminati, and I can't remember what else. So many of these people who are lawyers and judges, you're going to see them start stepping down or being arrested. So all the people that are in that so-called Black community, that all of us that looked up to those people, please know that we're about to see their faces plastered all over the news in our communities. Because what they would do is they would act like they're a part of the people, and they'll come around your church or your community when they wanted a vote, or when they wanted a favor from the community. They probably do that in the other communities too, but they are known for it in the Black community. They'll only come around when they need a vote, or they'll only come around when they need something to help them or to prop them up. But they're all friends. They're all these judges and lawyers. They play golf together. They pretend like they're adversaries, but they actually meet and they make negotiations, and then they come back and tell you, if they're representing you, that you should take a charge. No one to be just a lesser charge. That's because they're making what they call them backyard deals betwixt each other. The prosecutor and the defendant, they're talking to each other, they're making deals, and then they come back to you and say, why don't you take a lesser charge? Okay, because they're all accessing your bond. The judges, the prosecutor, the defending attorney, whatever, the other attorney, all of them work in cahoots together. But now it's going to come out that they were part of the deep state, part of the Illuminati. They were coalescing against we the people, and all the heinous things they did behind the scenes to support their family members or get their family members off, or graping children. All this stuff is about to come out in the new era. They thought they lived above the law, but as the Attorney General said, nobody is above the law. They will be taken down. So I just wanted to bring that out, family, that it's about to get really, really ugly. It's about to get really, really messy. These are the same people, at least in the community classified as Black, these lawyers and attorneys, not lawyers, and judges that organize a lot of protests and marches, and or represented people that were protesting and marching, because they're all part of the same deep state. So they taught people in communities to protest and march and complain and whine and holler and throw temper tantrums, when that's not even what a lawful protest is. A lawful protest is actually getting a notarized document or a statement professing your claim against whomever you have a problem against, and going through proper procedures, like the three Kentucky people, three Kentucky taxpayers and one major gold company actually signed a notarized statement and sued Governor Andy Beshear in Kentucky for putting taxes on, or assessing taxes on, precious metals, after lawmakers had decided to remove taxes from the sales of precious metals. So a protest or protesting or going against the system is done lawfully and peacefully by signing the lawful paper, doing it the proper way, operating in your proper capacity as a sovereign individual. Martin Luther King didn't teach you that, because he was allegedly a part of the deep state and friends with the Rothschilds. And a lot of these lawyers who promote that are part of the deep state. That's why they represent all these protesters going into jail. They're friends with people that were a part of the Black Lives Matter movement and Until Freedom and all these different movements, Antifa even. They're friends with them. They supported them. They financed them. They receive funds through Act Blue. It's all a big joke to them. Whether no matter what community you're in, the Latino, my mi bisabuelo, my great grandfather came from Colombia. Whether you're from the Latin community, so I'm not against Latin people. I love Latin people. More about that later. But Latin. My bloodline, our maiden name is Gomez. But whether you're part of that community, the so-called Black community, the so-called white community, no matter what community that you're a part of, if you're a part of the deep state and these bloodline families and you participated in crimes against humanity, you're going to be taken down. Point blank, period. And it's not just the judges, it's not just the attorneys, but it's also the pastors. And that's probably why T.D. Jakes just announced his resignment, which we knew that was coming. Years ago, I was told by one of his colleagues that they knew this way before Diddy stuff came out. This was years ago, like 10, 12 years ago. I was told by one of his colleagues, I know T.D. Jakes does things, nefarious things that relates to children. He said, I know for a fact on a personal level, and I'll just leave it at that. So I knew he was going to be taken down eventually. And now we know that he was allegedly mentioned in the Diddy files. So that would be a reason why he just stepped down. But what the mainstream media is going to tell you is that he was sick. He suffered some type of stroke or something, some type of illness in front of his people during a church service a couple months ago. And then he put his, I thought I heard something. Then he said his daughter, I think he ordained his daughter to take his place. And now, let me see. And now she will just take the reins of the pastor. So T.D. Jakes just announced that he was stepping down. He's a big time pastor. Remember, he was mentioned allegedly in the Diddy files. But remember, there was an Atlanta pastor before him. You guys remember that guy, Eddie Long. He was allegedly a part of this doing bad things to children, because even these pastors that are in power, that's over so-called mega churches, came to power by participating in rituals. But their time has come to an end. So churches will be dismantled on a large scale. I'll leave that discussion for another day about religion. But these pastors were allowed to come to power and put in place in order to colonize the minds of the people, siphon their energy and their money for themselves and for their brotherhood and sisterhood. Because if they really cared about the people, you would see a change. With several churches being on every corner, and most communities, especially poor communities and communities classified as Black. Why? Somebody tell me why we have high crime rates. We have drugs, a horrible drug problem. We have homelessness. We have so many problems in so many communities. And it is not just a impoverished community or the Black community or this community or that community. Why is society as a whole doing so bad when their Bible said you're supposed to be the head and not the tail? When their Bible says you're supposed to lend and not borrow? When their Bible says that the earth is the Lord's and the abundance thereof? Their Bible says that you're supposed to prosper even as your soul prospers. So what are these pastors teaching that have kept people impoverished and have kept the communities literally living like paupers and homeless and drug infested? What are the churches doing or not doing? And what are these pastors doing with the money that they've been collecting? Okay, because they surely haven't been putting it in the communities. Because with all the churches we have, whether it's the Catholic Church, the Pentecostal, the Baptist, the Methodist, all these churches we have, and yet we have poor communities. We have women that don't have husbands that are struggling. We have children that are homeless, that are fatherless and motherless with all these churches. And all the money is being collected. Oh, but you have a coffee shop and you have properties that you own, but you can't put that money back into the community. So TD Jakes is stepping down probably because his name has been identified as being one of the ones that has participated in crimes against humanity, just like Eddie Long and some of these other pastors. I'll show you an article, but you guys probably have heard about TD Jakes. Here's another pastor. He's an activist pastor. He and other pastors who criticized President Trump were arrested while praying inside the Capitol. This just happened yesterday. A North Carolina pastor, famous for decades of activism for progressive causes, was arrested in the Capitol Rotunda yesterday on Monday, less than a week after the formation of the Trump administration's task force on anti-Christian bias at the Justice Department. This arrest occurred on Monday afternoon as Reverend William Barber and others were praying at the Capitol earlier in the day. The Reverend delivered a sermon on the Capitol steps and also delivered a Moral Monday address at the Supreme Court. Bishop Reverend Dr. William, look at all these names, Bishop Reverend Dr. William Barber and Reverend Jonathan Wilson Hartgrove were among those arrested this afternoon, that was Monday, while praying in front of a statue that honors suffragettes in the United States Capitol Rotunda. The arrest occurred after an interfaith gathering of leaders across the nation delivered a moral message. They were arrested for demonstrating inside the congressional buildings, which is not allowed in any form to include but not limited to singing, chanting, etc. In this case, they started praying quietly and then they began to pray loudly. That's when we gave them multiple warnings to stop or they would be arrested, but they did not stop, said a U.S. Capitol Police. Thank God. I don't care if you are praying, singing kumbaya. The law is the law. And a rightful protest, when you break down the etymology of the word, when you look at Black's Law Dictionary, when you understand and overstand how it was written, a protest, again, is a signed, notarized document that airs out your complaint. And it goes through certain procedures in order to mitigate your complaint. It is not screaming, singing, praying, shouting, or protesting or demonstrating. We've been led astray, and these people knew better. These pastors knew better, but they thought they were above the law. They've been getting away with doing this for a long time under the guise of peaceful protesting and civil rights. Okay? What are civil rights anyway? They say you're supposed to be fighting for human rights or sovereign rights, but civil rights, they've been getting away with these shenanigans for a long time, but their time has come to an end, is my point. Pastors are about to get arrested en masse. Some people are going to be really crying all over social media when a pastor gets arrested because of the nefarious things they've been doing, not just protesting and leading these rallies, pretending like they care about the people, but they're leading the people down the path of destruction by leading rallies and telling them to protest, to tear up their neighborhoods. Come on, 2020. This is what they did in my town in Louisville, Kentucky, and they did all over many blue cities, all over the country, under the guise of Black Lives Matter and Antifa Until Freedom, saying that they were representing or fighting for Black men who had been arrested, or Black men who had men classified as Black who had been killed by cops. Okay. A lot of these pastors led these protests and they told people to take to the streets because they were given orders by their handlers. Instead of teaching people what a peaceful, lawful protest is, or instead of telling people that the Constitution says that you can literally form your own militia, your own military, your own militia, and you can go and do what J6 did and go to the Capitol and drag those folks up out of there and stake the totem pole. Why do you think the J6ers were exonerated? Because they actually did what's within their rights to do. The Capitol is the people's house. The people have a constitutional right whenever they know or see that their constitution and republic has been infiltrated by preposterous, treasonous people. They have a right to go in there and snatch them up out of there. Or they have a right to sue people like the Kentucky taxpayers did. The people that sued Governor Andy Beshear for putting taxes on precious metals. But we're not taught that. Pastors, though, some of them, not all of them, who are part of the deep state, have led people astray while they're siphoning your money and your energy, but their time is up. And behind the scenes, a lot of them, not just the ones on the big scale, but a lot of them are involved in a lot of sex trafficking. They're involved in sexing and running through the women, the men, and the children. It is so pervasive. It happens on such a large scale that the people are going to be shocked. Even in the small churches, they are running through these babies. They are molesting these boys. It's not just the Catholic Church. It's most all type of churches across all denominations are raping children, running through women, and having relationships with the men. And I have a personal friend who's he's a gay friend, a gay male who wrote a book about it. He said, I got so tired of fighting these demons, called out, because in the Black church, Pentecostal church, they will call you out and call you by name, put you in front of the church, tell you you're a demon, pretend to cast out the demon and talk about you. But then later on that night, they're having sex with you in the bed. So my friend said, I was raped as a child. My first encounter was with a pastor. So my appetite is for men. I didn't know anything else. It's all I had growing up. So after they grape me and pass me around, and I'm growing up in the church, they will call me out for being gay and ridicule me. But I would wonder, does your wife know what you're doing in your office or at the club, at the gay club? He said, I grew up, in church, but I still had a certain nature because I'd been raped as a child. So I would go to the clubs that were just for, men that practice, that were homosexual. And I would see pastors, evangelists from small churches all the way up to big churches. And I got tired of them condemning the people, telling everybody they're going to hell when they're sleeping with the men, women, and the children. And some of them are doing drugs. I have sons, this is true, that they're musicians. They know pastors. And they say these pastors are not what y'all think they are. And again, I'm not against pastors. I'm an ordained evangelist. I'm not against pastors. I worked as in the capacity of assistant pastor, youth pastor. I've done it. So I've seen some things. Okay. I've seen prophets with little boys. And I'm wondering why these little boys are staying at their house. And then when these boys become men, I talk to them and I realize that it really was something bad happening, although some of these pastors and prophets and evangelists were pretending like they cared about the little boys. But all of this stuff is about the come out family. They thought they were above the law, but they're not, and they're going to be arrested. Fraternities and sororities equals orgies. That's what I heard. That's why my sons were like, I will not marry a girl that's a part of any Greek society, because in college she probably got ran through by the fraternity boys. I'm just seeing what you guys are saying. Yeah, it's all about the money for many of them. I believe there are good pastors that really care about the people. I just want to see the result. I want to see proof of it. Oh, Joe says churches give away food, but it's all donations. So yes, you have liquor stores on the corner and churches on the corner of many communities. So you can Google it and you'll see that TD Jakes, which some people I've had on the show says that some of these pastors are also transformers, that they're not the gender that they say they are. Now, I don't know about this gentleman, but it's just wild how they've been allowed to use the name of God to do nefarious things, to hide behind while they're doing nefarious things. So he steps down from leading Dallas mega church, the Potter House, and he turns over the mantle to his daughter. Some people are saying, well, I thought you had to be called by God to pastor. Why is he just turning over the mantle to his daughter? Well, because church is a business. That's why. And you turn over businesses to family. Hi, Taj. Good to see you, my great friend. He said he's stepping down. This past Sunday. Oh, he stepped down already this Sunday. The Bible also says the church is supposed to take care of the widows and the orphans. Yes. So family, I just wanted to show you that pastors are stepping down, judges, attorneys, and policy enforcers known as police officers. They are stepping down. Some of them are either forced to step down or they're being arrested because their time has come to an end as the old guard is being taken down and the new guard is happening. We're having a changing of the guard. If you want more about resignations, go to resignation.info. Literally www.resignation.info. And these are notable resignations. This needs to be updated. It says, sorry, no updates at this time. Notable resignations worldwide, 14,000 resignations, 14,000 people within 10,000 organizations and 171 countries. You'll see pastors on this list, presidents of banks, vice presidents of countries, CEO of YouTube, CEO of Netflix, president of Vietnam. You go down the list and they're somewhere down here where you can switch to the next page. But this list hasn't even been updated. This was, let's see, I don't know when this one was published. I want to say like 2020, something like that. But they're still updating the list. So you can go to resignation.info. You'll see pastors on that list. These are notable resignations or forced resignations where the Grand Army of the Republic or the white hats of the military are investigating people and forcing them to resign, or they're arresting them. Why have we not seen arrests yet? I don't know, but they say we will. We will see it on television. Remember, all churches, no matter what denomination, falls under the Vatican. So child abuse is the norm in that sector. Thank you, Sister Rose. Thank you. So that's about it, family. I just wanted to show you that things are happening. If you're just tuning in, I did quickly go over the NESARA benefits. I don't have time to go back over them and do a summary right now because I have another podcast to do, but I'll drop that link of the NESARA benefits in the description section of my YouTube channel and my Rumble channel. Here it is. And then on another day, we'll break down all of these components of NESARA law and how we can see evidence of it happening right now during the second Trump administration. So that's it, family. All of you that tuned in, thank you so much. I love you with all my heart. Now I have to do a video on my members only section about how central banks are closing and sovereign banks are up to serve we the people and to operate as wealth management systems or centers. So my name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. Thank you also for all the Cash Apps coming in. I don't have time to acknowledge you today, but if you did send a Cash App, my sign or Cash App is $ Mama Kia 13. That's MAMAKIA 13. I hope you all are ready for the takedown because you're going to have a lot of people that's going to be upset when their pastors' faces are smeared all across mainstream media or the local newspaper. Now, the church members have been conditioned to support pastors even when they're found guilty. You're going to hear some people say things like, oh, he's just a man like everybody else. You know, he has his faults. Even if it comes to doing bad things to children, I've heard it all. We have to forgive him. God overlooks the man of God. You can't charge the man of God foolishly. You're not supposed to take your brother to court. You're going to hear it all. But in my very strong opinion, not my humble opinion, if you do bad things to children, and if you say that you were called by a supreme being to help people and lead people, but you've laundered money, drugs, and participated in sex rituals, or any immoral behaviors, I think you need to deal with the consequences because you claim that you have a high calling. And just like these judges and attorneys are not above the law, neither should you be. And many of you pastors and preachers and teachers have come across your pulpit and condemned people literally to hell, especially in the Pentecostal church. I came from the Pentecostal church. You literally condemn people to hell fire, burning with brimstone, but yet some of you behind the scenes were doing the exact same thing you told everybody else they couldn't do. Well, now your time has come. You can't hide behind anybody, religion, or even God or Jesus Christ himself. So it's going to be a little uncomfortable for a while, family, but we're going to have to just be a little uncomfortable as the shakedown continues and these people who call themselves leaders step down from these positions, because the leader for whom you've been searching is really within. The Savior for whom you've been looking is truly within. And we have elders in our own communities, in our own nations, wherever you're hailing from whichever community you're tuning in from. You have elders that can lead, that can set precedents, that can create laws. You have elders and you have ancestors. You don't need these random people coming along, putting themselves in position and saying that they're called by God to lead you. And most importantly, you are God. That's what your Bible says. Look it up in St. John, St. Luke, and also look it up in Psalms. So having said that, family, things are changing. No more darkness, no more siphoning energy, no more harming babies or children, and women and men will be allowed. This is going to be a whole new era. We're cleaning it up. The deep state in every single sector has to be dismantled, including the church and the so-called legal system. I'm back, family. So my name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I trust that we can handle what's about to happen, right? That with the churches being dismantled and the legal system being dismantled. But my name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I trust I've said something to raise your vibrations, because we're having a whole new reality in this experience. So I hope I've said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Go out and make this a great day, family. I love you. Bye-bye.